Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to the show tonight, and thank you for joining us. Folks, we have a great show for you tonight. We want to welcome everybody here to our program tonight. We have a lot of things to discuss. According to the USGS, we've had very few earthquakes. We've had very few earthquakes. Isn't that interesting? We can't even show them on our viewer here to you, but I'm going to go over them with you. Okay? I hope you don't mind this, but this time we can't avoid this, unfortunately. The earthquakes that we have here are large. Okay? They are large earthquakes. The earthquake over in Korea yesterday was a large 5.0 earthquake just off the southwest coast of Costa Rica. A 5.0 earthquake that was very shallow. This was just barely 11.4 kilometers deep. Just barely off the shore. Tamarindo, Costa Rica. Northern Costa Rica. A 5.0 earthquake offshore. Now, folks, this was 72 kilometers from town. I don't believe anybody this far offshore, if anybody felt anything, it was like a slow rumble or a mild quake. Nothing more, probably nothing less. That was a large quake from last night at 7 Eastern Time here in the United States. Another thing happened earlier today. This afternoon was another 5.0 earthquake. USGS immediately downgraded to a 4.9. Of course, they downgrade to the nearest 0.9. This was 572 kilometers deep. Last week, we had numerous earthquakes here in this area, in the Fiji area, over in Tonga also. We said there will probably be a 5.2 earthquake. I believe this earthquake was exactly that. USGS downgraded to 4.9. This was a very deep earthquake as well. 592 kilometers deep. Folks, when we have an earthquake this deep, it's always going to propagate a larger, shallower quake. This 4.9, and I believe it's probably a 5.2 earthquake, is going to propagate another earthquake. It's going to propagate a 5.9, 6.0 earthquake. Sometime within the next 72 hours to 10 days. In this, probably either in the same area or over in the Solomon Islands, possibly Vanuatu or Papua New Guinea. If it goes eastbound, it might go over towards Easter Island, or in the worst case, over into Chile or Argentina. I don't think it's going to go that way. I think it's probably going to go over to Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, or over into Papua New Guinea. However, this earthquake could also go south. This earthquake could go down into the Loyalty Islands or into New Zealand. The Kermadec Islands just north of New Zealand or down into New Zealand. That will remain to be seen within the next week. We're going to watch for at least a 5.9, 6.0 earthquake here. There was also an aftershock from this, I believe, 5.2 earthquake. There was a 4.5 aftershock. The aftershock was even deeper. It was a 4.5 moderate aftershock, but it was even deeper. 615 kilometers deep. This is going to mean another large, probably 5.5, I'm talking probably a 5.6 earthquake. Again, within the next 72 hours to a week. Folks, this continues to be the case. We're seeing these large earthquakes propagate larger earthquakes even so. Surgeries in the chat is asking whether my phone is up or not. No, it's not. My phone is down until at least Wednesday. My phone died Saturday night, and I'm getting another phone hopefully sometime on Wednesday. I will let everybody know. I'll send out messages letting everybody know when my phone is right. Okay? All of a sudden it just died. Okay? No reference, no anything. But that's what happened. Now, I'm using the USGS map. They're not showing any earthquakes in Indonesia at all, or Papua New Guinea. How wrong they are. Folks, it's embarrassing to me, having been schooled by a professor that used to work for the agency. He was a good man. At the time, the agency was doing good work. But now, the agency lacks intelligence. I'm talking about management. I'm not talking about the everyday USGS employee or even the scientists. I'm talking specifically about managers and politicians that tell the managers not to show earthquakes. The Australia-Indonesia area comprises 7 different tectonic plates. Each plate is subducting underneath the other one. Subducting, meaning going underneath the other plate. That is the reason we have earthquakes in Indonesia and over in Australia. Rarely does USGS even tell us when we have earthquakes in Australia. This past week we had 4. 4 earthquakes in Australia that USGS did not mention. Today, in Indonesia, we have about 25 earthquakes there. Off the northeast coast of Mindanao, Philippines, we have 4 3.4, 3.5, 3.7, and 3.9 earthquakes as a result of a 9.0 earthquake that hit here 3 months ago. 4 aftershocks that are continuing to hit this area from a major earthquake 4 months ago. That happens. As I said before, every time we have a major earthquake of that size, we're going to see aftershocks for years afterwards. Not just weeks, not just months, but years afterwards. I referenced the earthquake that hit over in Turkey in February last year. Today, there were 60 earthquakes over in that Turkey area, the Turkey-Syria border region. USGS does not say anything about it. Not one darn thing. About 15 other earthquakes hitting central and western Turkey as well. Do they say anything about it? Not a chance. Greece got hit by 20 earthquakes today. Did they say anything about it? No way. Italy got hit by 18 earthquakes today. Have they said anything about that? No. Most of those earthquakes are in central Italy, around Marche, M-A-R-C-H-E, Italy, that area. We've had earthquakes over in France. We've had a couple earthquakes over in Spain, over in the Atlantic Ocean in the Azores, also in the western Azores, just east of the huge mid-Atlantic fault. We've had earthquakes over in Iceland as well. We're getting ready to have another eruption of the volcano over in Iceland. This time we believe it's going to be north of the Svartsengi power plant. The power plant we're talking about is just west from Grindavik. Just west by maybe 20 miles west of Grindavik. The Svartsengi power plant, folks, has a magma chamber underneath it. Scientists believe that the magma chamber has expanded so far that it's probably not going to be able to hold the magma inside it. Which means, if something happens to the Svartsengi power plant, it will be because an eruption, a dike of magma below the Svartsengi power plant rose up and broke the surface in the Svartsengi power plant area, which would cut electricity and hot water to most of Iceland. We don't think that's going to happen because we believe that there is a magma tunnel that has gone northbound away from that magma chamber. It's gone northbound, and we believe there's going to be an eruption there along that same fissure line, but possibly north of there, north and west of Grindavik. We don't believe Grindavik will be hit this time, although Grindavik has been continuing to get hit by earthquakes. Now, what's happened in Grindavik? They have allowed some citizens to go back into Grindavik. However, those citizens can mostly stay only during the daylight hours. Most of that. Now, the government of Grindavik, or not Grindavik, the government of Iceland has the power to order their insurance company that provides insurance on every building and every home in Iceland, ordering that insurance company to pay the bills for the people that lost their homes in Grindavik. Whether it be from the magma, the last magma eruption, the lava eruption that was just north of Grindavik, where 3 homes were destroyed, and all of the other homes and businesses that are in Grindavik. 16 of those homes, I believe, were damaged beyond habitation. The insurance company is coming forth and paying those families money to go find another place to live. And that's a good thing. Crews from Iceland are trying to repair the streets in Grindavik. Great big huge fissures opened up in the streets. One man lost his life as we reported on that situation back in January. They sent crews into the fissure to repair the fissure, and they had dumped a good deal of earth into the fissure. And they sent that man down into the fissure with 2 other people in a basket. And that man was using a tamping device. The tamping device has 2 handles and a long straight handle going down to the tapping device. The tapping device is a vibration device, just like this. It tamps the soil down. While that man was operating that tamping device, the earth underneath him swallowed him up, and he was never found again. They pulled the other 2 people out by the basket and saved their lives. But now they're filling all of the fissures up. Hopefully, that will never happen again. But there are still earthquakes hitting Greenvik. These earthquakes are not major earthquakes at all. They're minor tremors and minor earthquakes for the most part. There are also some earthquakes that are 3.0 to 3.9, which are considered to be small earthquakes. That's what's happening there. So they don't believe that the citizens there are in any real danger. Some businesses are being allowed to stay open. For example, the fish processing plants. Just in the harbor outside Greenvik, there is a fishing fleet. That fishing fleet goes out every day and brings fish in there for processing. This port at Greenvik is a large port, and it provides probably 80 or 90% of the fish consumption in Iceland. So they're allowing those people to stay as well. We shall see what we see in Iceland. We are monitoring this on a daily basis, almost on an hourly basis. We will keep everyone informed on what's going on in Iceland. We appreciate everybody who's joined us that wants information. We want you to have the information. That's why we're talking about it. We've had some more earthquakes over in Japan as well. Over in the western side of Japan, there is a peninsula over there in west central Japan. It's called the Noto Peninsula. Just north of that Noto Peninsula, we had another 8.4 earthquake hit there a few months ago. As a result of that major earthquake, they're still having aftershocks over on the Noto Peninsula. These aftershocks are for the most part minor earthquakes and small earthquakes, like I said, from 3.0 to 3.9. That is all that's happening there. Occasionally we will see a 5.0 earthquake over there as well. That has happened. We're going to continue to report on this because USGS has seen in its own mind what they're going to report and what they're not going to report. That's the way that is. Okay? Let's come back to the Pacific Ocean. The North Pacific in the Aleutian Island chain. Over near Attu Station. Over in the western third of the Aleutian Island chain. Attu Station. We've had a moderate 4.1 earthquake there. We'll probably continue to see minor tremors hitting this area as well. Every time we see a moderate earthquake up at Attu Station, it's usually accompanied by tremors and minor earthquakes. I believe that's what's going to happen into the near future, probably within the next few days. Okay? Let's go eastward there. Comprising the peninsula of Alaska we've had some tremors and tiny microquakes. There happens to be a swarm of them around Volcanic Island. 0.5, 1.0 tremors, 0.8 microquakes, and 0.7 microquakes. There's a swarm there. There happens to be a volcano that swarm is next to. I believe that volcano is getting ready to erupt. That is why we're seeing this swarm of earthquakes and tremors there. If anything changes there, we'll report that as well to you. Volcanic Island occasionally has earthquakes. Hopefully it'll be the case again. But again, these swarms of tremors and minor earthquakes are as a result of that magma coming into that volcano on Volcanic Island. Okay. Going eastbound into South Central Alaska. There happens to be a good storm in South Central Alaska. Folks, this is pretty much very much normal. Just Anchorage, the Cook Inlet. There's an inlet that goes between Point McKenzie going south. In that inlet, folks, we have some earthquakes. We have a 3.3. This one is 23 kilometers north of Happy Valley. At least that's where USGS says it is. Okay? Usually when we have earthquakes here, it's because this is just south of Mount Redoubt. South of Mount Redoubt. Going north closer to Mount Redoubt. Salamatoff, Alaska, 2.2. Just to the east of that, there happens to be a 2.3 earthquake. 2.0, 2.9 are minor earthquakes. Also a 1.6 tremor. These may be related to Mount Redoubt. They usually are. Also just south of Anchorage, in that same inlet, a 2.0 earthquake near Beluga, Alaska. Okay? Then, just northwest of Anchorage, we have another 1.4 tremor. Okay? It's near what they call Big Lake, Alaska. Big Lake, Alaska is just across the bay from Anchorage. Just west across the bay from Anchorage. Now, I'm going to go north. North and a little bit east. Sutton, Alpine, Alaska. Here we had a 2.2 earthquake. Okay? Just a minor earthquake. Over in Denali National Park. The reason I'm going here, this is the Craton Edge. The Craton Edge here in Alaska, Denali National Park. South of Mount McKinley, we have a 2.5 earthquake. Just east of Mount McKinley, this may be on the slope of Mount McKinley, we've had another 2.1 minor earthquake. At Mount McKinley, a 2.0 earthquake. Interesting how USGS wants to point out anything but Denali National Park. None of those earthquakes I just told you about has USGS designated as Denali National Park. They're saying it's 54 kilometers, this last one, 54 kilometers north of Petersville, Alaska. No, these are Denali National Park. In northern Denali, we've had another earthquakes here. A 2.0 earthquake right next to it. Both of those earth movements, I believe, are related. They're literally almost on top of each other. To almost the direct north from there, there's another 2.0 earthquake. This earthquake, they say, is southeast of Denali National Park. No, folks, it's right smack dab in the northern Denali National Park region. It's in the Denali National Park. And USGS claims it's southeast of Denali. What a farce. It's a 2.0 earthquake. Interesting, huh? Northeast of Denali and near Cantonville, Alaska, we have a 1.6 tremor. Okay? Now, we have been having earthquakes in north central Alaska over and over and over again. Today near Esther, Alaska. This is north central Alaska. A 1.0 tremor and a 1.4. Interesting. Just to the northeast of there is another 1.4 near Fox, Alaska. Just south of there, near Badger, Alaska, we have a 1.7. Fascinating. Up in northern Alaska, this is just south of Arctic Village, Alaska. This is just south of the Arctic Circle. We have a 2.1 minor earthquake. Yesterday up in Kennebec, Alaska, which is just barely south of the North Shore, Alaska, where all the oil and gas pumping operations have been going on for a very long time. Kennebec, Alaska had a 3.0 earthquake yesterday. Now, I want to give you a little bit of background on what happened right before Ridgecrest hit. Remember the 7.1 earthquake that hit in 2019 in Ridgecrest that maybe was an 8.0 that USGS has been hiding? Folks, 3 days before that earthquake, Kennebec had a 5.0. We've been watching Kennebec ever since then. We have not had any large 5.0 earthquakes since then. We've had a 4.0. That was close. That was about a month ago. Yesterday, a 3.0 small earthquake. Still not a 5.0. But we're watching it just to see what happens. Why? Because, folks, lately there's become a surge of earthquakes in the Southern California area. One around the Mojave Desert near Ridgecrest, and south of there, going south into San Diego County. Before the Ridgecrest earthquake, we had a large number of earthquakes from San Diego County, northeast San Diego County north, until they got up to Ridgecrest. Something like 20,000 earthquakes happened in that area before and after the Ridgecrest quake hit. Prior to the Ridgecrest quake hitting, the day before on July 3rd, 2019, there were two 6.9 earthquakes allegedly recorded in the Ridgecrest area. two separate and distinct locations where those quakes hit. USGS took down one of them and left the other one up, but downgraded it to a 6.4. That's their motive of operation. What as a police officer I term as modus operandi. That's what USGS has famously done. Downgrading the earthquakes to the nearest 0.9. Two 6.9 earthquakes. Downgraded one to a 6.4 and took the other down. The very next day, a 7.1 earthquake was recorded at Ridgecrest that scientists now say could have been an 8.0. Interesting. Like I said, we're watching earthquakes and the swarms of earthquakes in Southern California now, because it seems to be picking up in the Southern California area from northeast San Diego County, the Anza Gap area, folks, and down in Borrego Springs, the Anza Borrego Desert area. We have swarms of earthquakes increasing in size and also increasing in numbers. We're watching to see what happens. Okay? I want to report that because we're watching it. Going over to Southeast Alaska, Yakutat, Alaska, a 2.2 earthquake. Further south, Mosquito Lake, Alaska. Mosquito Lake is just north of Sitka Volcano, probably by about 100 miles. A 2.1 earthquake hit at Mosquito Lake, Alaska. Or should I say, just south of Mosquito Lake, Alaska. Okay? Let's jump down to the Pacific Northwest. Over in the eastern side of Olympia Mountain, which also happens volcano. 1.8 near Quilcene, Washington. Like I said, that is east, probably by about 50 miles east of Olympia Mountain. Just east of there, we had another 1.7 near Squamish, Washington. Interesting. Why am I saying that? Folks, if you have not been following me for a long time or have never followed me, let me give you a little follow-up here. Folks, this is in the same area where we expect a great deal of damage to happen because of a very large earthquake that's going to hit here in the very near future. This is the same area, just north of both of these earthquakes. We have the Juan de Fuca, or Strait of Juan de Fuca, the body of water that comes in from the North Pacific over towards Seattle. It's called the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Both of these earthquakes are just south there in the Puget Sound. We have been getting hit here by earthquakes. Folks, if I took you to the seismograms from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, we would see a lot of earthquakes and tremors in this area. But USGS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network is not reporting a great deal of microquakes in this area. They're not reporting them. Why? A cover-up. A conspiracy again between politicians and management of the USGS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Heaven forbid that they tell us what's going on. For those of you that have not been here with me for the longest time, those of you that are new, there's what they call a slow slip going on up here in the Pacific Northwest. The slow slip is not releasing energy. When we have these minor tremors, it's not releasing energy. The tremors show a buildup of energy. More and more tremors every day. And the size of the tremors are increasing. Increasing to the point where we're also seeing 2.0, 2.1, 2.4, 2.7, 2.8, and 2.9 minor earthquakes. It's called seismicity. The strength of the earthquakes is increasing in this area, along with them not reporting what's going on. I have in the past shown you seismograms, and I'll continue to do that probably starting tomorrow. Showing you seismograms, which are the graphs of the seismic pressure that's hitting in this area. Because the agencies don't want us to see it. And they even mess with the seismograms, and I've shown that as well. But for the most part, the seismograms are accurate to a certain point. When we see not much on a seismogram, because they've doctored it. We told you last week, we showed you some seismograms last week where they doctored the seismogram. They erased information. South and east of there, over at Mount Rainier. Today, USGS is reporting a 1.1 tremor at Mount Rainier. I'm here to tell you that there's not just one 1.1 tremor at Mount Rainier. There happens to be a whole swarm of quakes and tremors, ranging in size from 1.0 tremors on up to 3.5 earthquakes at Mount Rainier. And we can prove it. Day after day, seismograms don't lie. Day after day. Rebecca says our microphone is having problems. I'm sorry about that. I'm here to tell you that there's not just one 1.1 tremor at Mount Rainier. There happens to be a whole swarm of quakes and tremors. Right? Okay, it sounds like my microphone is okay for the most part. Richard Smith says lots of reverberation increase in seismic energy. You're right. You're spot on, Richard. You're spot on. The agency won't report it. Tomorrow I'm going to reveal seismograms, which is the paper graph that is put out by the seismograph itself, the machine. I'll show you that information tomorrow night. South of there at Mount St. Helens, they're not showing any earthquake at all on the USGS map. We can also prove that to be a fallacy as well. There are all kinds of earthquakes and tremors hitting St. Helens, and even east of there at Mount Adams, and south of there at Mount Hood, where they're also not reporting any earthquake or seismic events at all. If they would do their job, I would not harp half as bad. But at some point, the volcano is going to erupt, and people's lives are going to be lost because the agencies are not reporting anything going on. That's what angers me the most. Going further south, over into Bidwell, California area. Bidwell, California, folks, is just in Northern California near the border of Oregon. A 3.0 earthquake and a 2.0 aftershock. Bidwell, California, and Plush, PLUSH, Oregon. A 3.0 and a 2.0 earthquake there today. We go south, just north of Lake Tahoe. Also volcano. Empire, Nevada. A 1.6 tremor there. And right next to it, also on the bottom range fault zone, we have more earthquakes. Also 1.4 there as well. South and west of there, Herlong, California, Herlong, California, a 1.0 tremor. South and west of there in the Sierra Nevada mountains, Kromberg, California, Kromberg, California, CROMBERG, California, a 1.3 tremor there. South and east of there, we have a swarm of earthquakes. The swarm started morning. 4.7 in Maui, Nevada. A 1.5 in Lemon Valley, Nevada. And also a 1.3 there. And not to be outdone by one more earth there as well. A 1.0 tremor. 9 kilometers north of Lemon Valley, Nevada. This Lemon Valley, Nevada is about miles north of Mono Lake, California. Just 10 miles north of Mono Lake, California. Interesting. Very interesting. Why do you think I'm doing that? These folks, also another north of there that we just got through talking about. Actually, no, we didn't. I'm sorry, we did not. There just happens to be a volcano north and east of there. This volcano is called Pyramid Lake. The volcano is shaped like this. Shaped just like this. On the north side of the lake are fumaroles similar to what we see down at the Salton Sea. Over in the south central portion of the lake, there happens to be an island in the lake. Folks, Pyramid Lake is a lake. Below it is a volcanic caldera. The lake sits in the caldera, inside the rim of the volcano. That island that sits there is the summit of the volcano. These swarms today, these tremors today here that I told you about, are right directly between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. Interesting. They're also in the Walker Lane Fault Zone. The Walker Lane Fault Zone stretches from the Gulf of California south of the border in Mexico all the way north to Pyramid Lake. Walker Lane Fault. If you go over to the Navy map, the Navy map specifically shows this will be an inland waterway at some point in time. There's going to be a major earthquake or multiple major earthquakes to cause that inland waterway, the Walker Lane Fault. South of that tremor, we also have a 0.5 microquake. South of there, also on the Walker Lane Fault, a 1.4 tremor at Virginia City, Nevada. Southwest of there, 7 kilometers west-southwest, supposedly, of Virginia City, Nevada, we have a 1.0 tremor. Fascinating. Also south and east of Lake Tahoe, also on the Walker Lane Fault, a 1.5 tremor in Carter Springs, Nevada, or near Carter Springs, Nevada. They say it's 3 kilometers east of Carter Springs. Folks, that puts it right on the edge of Carter Springs. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk to you about 2 other tremors that are just south of here. One is almost directly south of Lake Tahoe, again a volcano. This is Markleeville, California. We've had numerous earthquakes here near Markleeville in the past. Also on the Walker Lane Fault Zone. 1.3 tremor there, and directly east of there, guess what? Another 1.1 tremor near Topaz Lake, Nevada. Also on the Walker Lane Fault Zone. Fascinating. Okay? Again, south of Mono Lake, we have Mammoth Mountain. Also volcano. We have a 1.0 tremor there. And just south of that one, we have another 1.5 tremor there. Both of those are in the Mammoth Mountain area. Mammoth Mountain is a volcano. And again, the USGS is not correctly reporting what is going on there. Yes, it shows 2 tremors there. But what they're not reporting are 2.0 and 3.5 earthquakes at Mammoth Mountain. Fact. It's interesting to note, just east of Mammoth Mountain, we have a supervolcano. It's called Long Valley Caldera. The volcano has not erupted in hundreds of years. However, there are quite a few 3.0 and 3.5 earthquakes hitting Long Valley. A volcano, a supervolcano. And this agency is also not reporting that. Yet we can go to California Technical Institute and pull up seismograms showing these events. Multiple seismograms from Long Valley. 4 or 5 seismograms at Mammoth Mountain. Earthquakes and tremors hitting both volcanoes. It's interesting to note that there is talk of some scientists that believe that Mammoth Mountain just east of Long Valley may be in the same caldera as Long Valley. The Long Valley caldera right now spans 23 miles. 23 miles. Can you imagine if they included Mammoth Mountain there? It would span some 75 miles in total length, east to west. Fascinating. Earthquakes hitting that area. And yet, USBS would show us two tremors when there are 2.0 and 3.03.5 earthquakes hitting there. We've even reported in the past moderate 4.0 earthquakes hitting at both locations, both volcanoes. Okay? Northeast of there, Mina, Tonopah, Nevada. If that doesn't ring a bell, it should. 3 years ago in Mina, Tonopah, Nevada, we had a 6.9 earthquake there. A 6.9 earthquake. Folks, that earthquake rang for a very long time. Aftershocks hit this area for 3 years, up until the time that USBS stopped reporting on them. Today, in Mina, Nevada, we have there 1.8 tremor and another 1.8 tremor. Folks, this is also a volcanic area. It's a huge volcanic area. The Adobe Hills Volcanic Complex. The Adobe Hills Volcanic Complex. A lot of earthquakes hit there. That volcanic complex, folks, goes further east. Guess where? Area 51. And also Hill Air, or not Hill, but now the Air Force Base out there just north of Las Vegas. Anyway, the volcanic complex stretches all the way out there. And yes, they have had earthquakes and tremors there in the recent past. It's a huge, long, elongated volcanic field. Craters and cones all over the area. Literally. Amazing. Amazing. And yet this area still gets hit. I believe both of these 1.8 tremors are aftershocks of that 6.9 earthquake that hit here 3 years ago. Why? Because they continued to hit here. They haven't stopped. I needed to tell you that because this could start at any time, at any point. We go south of there, over into the Mojave Desert. Dyer, Nevada, 0.6 microquake there. Southeast of there, Silver Peak, Nevada, a 1.2 tremor there. South of there, Beatty, Nevada. This whole area is a volcanic field. The whole area is a volcanic field. 0.3 in Beatty and a 1.0 in Independence, California. Side by side. Literally. We go south of there into the mountains again. Lone Pine, California. This is the northern end of the Mojave Desert area, in the mountains. It is just east of the Owens Valley Fault Zone. Those of you that have heard of Owens Valley before, it's because we've had some major earthquakes in this Owens Valley area. A 3.1 hit today in Lone Pine, California. South of there, continuing in the volcanic field, Koza Volcanic Field. We've had multiple earthquakes hit here. It's a field, folks. There also happens to be a geothermal field here, where men have dug in or drilled into the Koza volcanic field into the upper magma chambers of the volcano to obtain steam to power turbines here to generate electricity. Every time man drills for steam at a volcano or for oil and gas, wherever it is, it's a man-made earthquake fault. Now, all of the volcanoes are opening up again. They're all regenerating. This earthquake, or these series of earthquakes over in the Koza volcanic field, could be related to drilling for steam from the volcano and or magma coming into the volcano. There's only very few seismographs that are there that provide information about what's happening at Koza volcanic field. I will also this week report on those seismograms at Koza volcanic field, because it's either magma or the seismic energy is hitting in the drill point, in the drill tunnel created by drill bits going into the upper magma chambers of the volcano. It's either or. But there's a series of earthquakes there today. A 1.3 tremor, and let's see here. Where did these quakes? Okay. Oh, here they are. There's 0.3, there's a 0.8, and also 1.2 tremor. Koza volcanic field. If you look at this over on Google Maps, you're going to see a bunch of craters and cones in that area, volcanic cones. It's a huge volcanic field. And if you look closely on the Google map, you're also going to see the turbines and the different turbine facilities. Usually the turbines look like a square like this, with a turbine in each corner of the square. There's like 36 turbines in the Koza volcanic field. A geothermal field here created by Senator Reid from Nevada. Yeah. He is the one in Congress funded or got funding for the Koza volcanic field to be turned into a geothermal field to produce electricity. Interesting. South of there, also in the Mojave Desert, Little Lake, California, a 1.2 tremor, and a 0.8 in Little Lake as well. South of there, Searles Valley, California, a 0.8 microquake. South of there, a 0.6 also in Searles Valley, close to Ridgecrest. Again, this area is waking up. More and more tremors are there. Now, let me point something else out. Ridgecrest and Searles Valley are on the northeast side of the Garlock Fault in the Mojave Desert. South and west of there is a place called Fraser, California. Just south of Fraser Day, guess what? Fillmore, California, a 1.5 tremor there. That happens to be on the Pine Mountain Fault. The Pine Mountain Fault there. Southwest of there, Santa Paula, California. Also a 1.4 tremor. Northeast of there, Castaic, California. A 1.0 tremor there. South of Castaic, also south of that earthquake, also in Castaic, a 1.0 tremor there. Okay? That's on that fault zone. Okay? The Hozar fault zone there. Okay? Then we just go off the coast. West of Santa Monica, California. West of the pier. There's a 1.7 tremor out there. Now this is also directly south of Malibu, California, where we've been having quakes as well. It's south of Malibu and west of Santa Monica. Just to give you a good viewpoint of where it's at. Out in the bay there. Okay? Then, like I said, more earthquakes in California. USGS is not doing a good job of reporting quakes at all. Today, I did some research. Over in La Puente, California, Walnut, La Puente, we had multiple earthquakes there. By multiple, I'm talking 7 quakes this morning. 7 3.0 plus earthquakes today. That is also volcano. The Walnut, La Puente area is in a caldera, the top of a volcano where they build a city. A lot of earthquakes today. And that's not the only place. They're literally all over Los Angeles. Moore Park, California, we've had a massive amount of tremors and minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes being 2.0 earthquakes, 2.0, 2.1, 2.3 earthquakes. Moore Park, California. That's not all, but there's more. Ellis, California, the same thing. Pardee, California, the same thing. Interesting how that area just north of Los Angeles is getting hit. All of Los Angeles is getting hit, literally. The only place not recording really any earthquakes is the Emergency Operations Center seismograph in downtown Los Angeles at the City County building. All it's doing is basically recording like a 1.8 tremor going every line, every horizontal line down the entire seismogram. So they're controlling that. Caltech and USGS are controlling that seismograph. They're not reporting anything there, but I know for a fact there are. I studied the Los Angeles and San Diego area thoroughly throughout my life. From high school through college and on into my later adulthood. I know for a fact that Los Angeles is begging for an earthquake. Yeah, begging for an earthquake. The Newport-Inglewood Fault is capable of a 7.0 earthquake. And yet, they're not reporting any earthquakes there. They're reporting tremors in Laguna. They're pointing out tremors on the seismograms at both Laguna and also further north at Playa del Rey and Marina del Rey as well. Points along the coastline north and south of Los Angeles. Fascinating, to say the least. Earthquakes and tremors all over LA. And they're not talking about it. Why not? Going further south, down the Elsinore Fault Zone, Trabuco Canyon, California, a 1.2 tremor. West of there, Rancho Santa Margarita, 1.2 tremor. North of Trabuco Canyon, guess what? 1.7 tremor at Home Gardens, California. Can you say Glen Avon, California, guys? This is the same area where we have increasing tremor activity. Increasing tremor activity. We're seeing it. North of there, Fontana, California. USGS is only reporting a 1.1 tremor in Fontana. I'm going to tell you right now, there's 2.3 earthquakes. These are minor earthquakes. There's also 3.0 earthquakes there as well, small earthquakes. Fontana, California. We have the seismograms to prove it. And they're only reporting a 1.1 tremor there. Fascinating. They report one tremor, and there are dozens of tremors and earthquakes. South of there, Loma Linda, California. USGS reporting a 2.4 earthquake. Can you say multiple earthquakes there? You can't get this wrong. They report a 2.4 earthquake, just one in Loma Linda. This is fascinating, really. Just south of there, in Mira Loma. The Mira Loma seismogram is got probably 50 to 60 tremors and minor earthquakes there. And yet USGS is reporting 2.4. Fascinating. It's insane, guys. It's insane. An increase in seismic events in Southern California. And the lead agency is not reporting them. South of Los Angeles is in San Diego County. Just north of San Diego County is the San Bernardino Mountains. Idlewild, California is in the Anza Gap area. A 1.6 tremor there, and just south of there, a 0.8. Interesting. The Anza Gap. South of there, were in northeast San Diego County. The Anza-Borrego Desert State Park in northeast San Diego County. A 1.2 tremor. And right next to it, a 0.5 microquake. Interesting. And just barely south of there, Borrego Springs, like I said, in the Anza-Borrego Desert State Park, northeast San Diego County, a 0.7 microquake. Going further south and west in San Diego County, guess what? On the Elsinore Fault again, just northeast of Escondido, Lake Henshaw, a 0.7 microquake there. The Elsinore Fault. South of there, also in East San Diego County, Julian, California, with a 1.0 tremor there. They're just showing one. I bet if I pulled up the seismogram from Julian, we'd have more than just a 1.0 tremor. Southeast of there, Ocotillo Wells, California. This is up at the top of the Chocolate Mountains that divides San Diego County from Imperial County there. A 1.3 tremor there. Over in the desert area on the east side of the Chocolate Mountains, we have another 1.2 tremor there, also considered Ocotillo Wells. South and west of there, Ocotillo Park. They're reporting a 2.5 earthquake there and a 1.3 tremor and a 1.1 tremor. Folks, it's interesting to note, they're reporting some tremors and they're just reporting a 2.5 earthquake. How come they're not reporting multiple 2.5 and 3.0 activity here in Ocotillo, California? The seismogram at Ocotillo Park shows that. If you are looking at a map of the Imperial Valley, looking at the Salton Sea and the south area just south of the Salton Sea in Imperial County, it shows no earthquakes, no tremors, no microquakes. Guess what? On the Calipatria seismogram, guys, on the seismogram, there's nearly 100 earthquakes and tremors there. USGS not reporting any. The seismogram south and west of there at Westmoreland is reporting about 50 tremors there and a couple minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.1 earthquakes. And south of there in the town of Imperial, guess what? A 3.0 earthquake hit Imperial today. USGS silent. Fascinating. If we go southeast of there into Holtville, at the Salton Sea Desert Research Station, there's also another seismograph there. The seismogram there is showing a bunch of tremors and minor earthquakes. And yet, the USGS shows zero, zilch. Fascinating. Our own agency not reporting anything. Not reporting anything. Folks, let me tell you. Let's go over into central Utah. I actually can't wait to tell you about this. The Black Rock Desert Volcano. is reawakening over in central Utah. Earthquakes hitting all over. Milford, Utah. 0.8 microquakes, 1.0 tremors, 2.5, 2.0 earthquakes over in Milford, Utah. The Black Rock Desert volcano is reawakening. Fascinating. Fascinating because USGS shows us one quake. One quake, a 0.8 microquake at that. Salt City, Utah. Magna, Utah. In 2018, I was living south of there, 25 miles south of there, in a place called Sandy, Utah. Sandy, Utah sits in what used to be Lake Bonneville, sitting on top of sand that used to be Lake Bonneville. That's why they call it Sandy, Utah. Fascinating. October 18th, 5 years ago, there was a 5.6 earthquake in Magna, Utah. Today, they're reporting a 0.4 microquake in Magna, in nearly the exact same epicenter where March 18th, 5 years ago, we had a 5.6 earthquake that caused millions of dollars in damage in downtown Salt Lake City. I felt it 5 miles away, and all I felt was a light rumbling, like a minor 3.0 earthquake. That's what I felt 25 miles away. But over in Magna, Utah, M-A-G-N-A, Magna, Utah, a 5.6 earthquake, where today we have a 0.4 microquake. And I will bet you if I went to the University of Utah Seismic Station, we would see a lot of microquakes and probably some minor earthquakes in this location, and all over the Salt Lake Valley. Surgery, are you still here? Surgery lives north of Salt Lake. He feels his house and his workplace shaking and creaking. This is why. Earthquakes and tremors hitting all over the Salt Lake Valley and north of there, Smithfield, Utah, all the time. North and east of Smithfield is a place called Trenton, Utah. A 1.4 tremor there. Fascinating. This is just probably, and I'm going to estimate this here, probably 40 miles west of Big Bear Lake, Utah / Idaho. Because Bear Lake goes into southern Idaho, and it also is in northern Utah. You learned something, didn't you? Wow. Guys. Now I'm going to go over to northeast of Yellowstone. Northeast of Yellowstone is a place called Hebgen Lake. We've had some tremors here before. In 1959, there was a 7.1 earthquake where the scientists are now saying it was an 8.0 earthquake, maybe a little bit larger than that. Nonetheless, a major earthquake here at Hebgen Lake. Cabins slid into Hebgen Lake off the hillside. The highway slid into the lake. as a result of that earthquake. Unsupported masonry, brick and mortar, falling down. Fireplace chimneys falling over. Walls at schoolhouses made of brick falling down. Major damage all over Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. A 1.2 tremor at Hebgen Lake today. That area, folks, is gearing up for a large earthquake. We continue to see earthquake swarms in Hebgen Lake every day. USGS reporting 1 tremor there. A bunch of nonsense. Now, 200 miles north of there is a place called Enos, Montana. A microquake 0.6 there in Enos, Montana. This is also, folks, in the Yellowstone magma chamber area. The Yellowstone magma chamber area. The Yellowstone magma chamber is 11 Grand Canyons in size. It stretches from just south of the Canadian border, east over into Montana, and west over into Challis, Idaho, and south into northern Utah. 11 Grand Canyons in size. This earthquake at Enos is in the magma chamber. Further southwest, Alder, Montana. Also 0.3 microquake in the Yellowstone magma chamber area. Just so you know. Earthquakes are hitting that area every day. Literally every day. Okay? Let there be no doubt what's going on. North and west of here, we're also seeing 2.0 earthquake over in Mullen, Idaho. Mullen, Idaho. This is just east of Challis, Idaho. Also in the western side of the Yellowstone magma chamber. Huge. Huge. Now, I'm going to the earthquakes here. Of earthquakes over in southwestern Texas. Coyanosa and Toya, Texas area. Swarms of earthquakes hitting in an oil and gas field. These tremors and minor earthquakes are hitting there because man has drilled into the earth to obtain oil and gas out of the shale beneath it. And they're pumping treated sewage water down in there. That's why we are having earthquakes at Toya and Coyanosa, Texas. Fact. We go down into southern Texas. We have another earthquake there. We've had many other earthquakes here in the recent past, including a 4.5 here just weeks ago. Today, a 2.7 minor earthquake hit in Falls City, Texas. 2 miles deep. 4 kilometers, 2 miles deep. Falls City, Texas hits again. It's just a minor quake. Probably nobody felt it. But again, it's in a huge it's in a huge oil and gas rich field. Pumps and jacks all over there. North and east there. Oklahoma. Is earthquake in Oklahoma, and that's happening again today. Multiple tremors in and around Prague, Oklahoma. Again, oil and gas. Southwest of there, Bridge Creek, Oklahoma, also oil and gas. A 0.8 microquake there. We go northeast over into the New Madrid Fault area. Marston, Missouri. USGS is reporting 1.6 tremor. I happen to have seismograms from Marston, Missouri right now in front of me. I'm telling you, it's not just 1.6 tremor in Marston. It's a series of tremors, long duration tremors, probably originating with a 0.1 microquake going all the way up into tremors throughout the entire morning and into the afternoon. Long duration tremor activity, and they're reporting only 1.6 tremor. 1.6 tremor. Folks, Marston, Missouri is moving. New Madrid, Missouri is moving. It's in the center of the New Madrid Fault, my golly. Portagesville, Missouri. 3.0 earthquakes in Portagesville, Missouri today. 3.0 small earthquakes in Portagesville, Missouri. I have seismograms to prove it. Going north, let's go over into Illinois. Fairfield, Illinois. Tremors up all over the place. Literally all day and all afternoon, all morning and all afternoon. From midnight last night, all morning and into the afternoon. I pulled the seismogram at 4 o'clock. Fascinating. They're not reporting any of that. None. Indiana. Over at the Southern University of Indiana, Evansville, Indiana. Tremors all over the place, all day long. They're not reporting any of those either. The northern end of the New Madrid Fault moving. The center of the New Madrid Fault moving. Arkansas. Little Rock, Arkansas having tremors. That is just barely on the western side of the Mississippi River. The western side of the New Madrid Fault. Ozark Folk Center, which is over in north central Arkansas. 2.5 earthquakes hitting there. Not just one, but many. Tennessee. Ridgely, Tennessee. We have tremors all over the place all day long, from midnight until late this afternoon. And I'm sure they're still hitting now. They're always hitting. You can't make this up. You can't even make this up, guys. They're hitting everywhere. Yet they're not reporting it. They're not reporting it. If I were to show you the Fairfield, Illinois seismograms for morning and afternoon, you'd be amazed. That's how many minor tremors and earthquakes are hitting there in Illinois. The same thing is true at Evansville, Indiana. All over Missouri. Marked Tree, Missouri. We've had 2.5 and 3.0 earthquakes all day long. And that's not the only place. Truman, Arkansas as well. And Tyronza, Arkansas. Tons of tremors all over Tyronza, Arkansas, and earthquakes as well. USGS say nothing. Not anything. Portersville, Missouri, several 3.0 earthquakes today, this afternoon, and one 3.0 earthquake this morning. Portersville, Missouri. Tiptonville, Tennessee. I talked about Ridgely, Tennessee earlier. Tiptonville, Tennessee. Tremors spanning from midnight last night, literally all day long and into the afternoon hours as well. Side to side. Every horizontal line. Each horizontal line is a 15-minute time period. Literally all day long is tremors and earthquakes. Fact. Why is USGS ignoring this? Heaven knows. Sometimes they report earthquakes at Ridgely and also Tiptonville. Today they're not. Again. We have small earthquakes hitting South Carolina. Kings Mountain, South Carolina. Small earthquakes, 3.0 earthquakes. They're not reporting them. The other day, just north of there, in Elgin, South Carolina, they were reporting tremors. Folks, would you be surprised to see, would you be surprised to see minor earthquakes, not just tremors, but minor earthquakes in Sumter, South Carolina, which is just east of Elgin and Lugoff, South Carolina. And yet they're not saying anything today at all. Nothing. Why not? Virginia. Accomack, Virginia, all day long from midnight on to 4 o'clock. Guess what? Tremors all day long. Literally all day long. Every minute of the entire day, they were hit with tremors. How would you like to have tremors beneath your feet all day long? Making you feel a little woozy, huh? That's what's happening in Accomack, Virginia. That's just north of me. Accomack, Virginia is just north of me. And it's not just there. Martinsburg, Virginia. Actually, West Virginia. Martinsburg, West Virginia, also north of me. Tremors hitting there. Not as bad as in Accomack, but tremors hitting there throughout the day. Mineral, Virginia. Tremors hitting there. Here in North Carolina. In the past, I've talked about Roper, North Carolina, along the northeast coast of North Carolina, east of Charlotte. Roper, North Carolina, tremors all day long. Yes, we've had 3.0 earthquakes in the past, off and on all day long in Roper, North Carolina, caused by the Atlantic Fault expanding from the middle, putting pressure on the east side of the North American Fault. the North American plate. The Eastern Continental Divide, the North American plate. Folks, we're having earthquakes on the East Coast caused by that expansion of the Atlantic plate. That pressure is also putting pressure on the New Madrid fault. The Pacific Ocean, the entire Eastern Pacific, the plate is subducting underneath North America. The entire coastline of the North American plate has the Pacific plate subducting from Mexico north to Canada. That's why when the Cascadia megathrust earthquake hits, within 15 to 20 minutes after the earth stops shaking the first time, we're going to have a tsunami hitting the west coast of North America, up and down the entire Pacific coast, all the way to Alaska. A major tsunami, anywhere from 50 to 150 feet high, as a result of a 10.0 Cascadia megathrust earthquake. That's going to happen. Are any of you prepared? Is anyone prepared? Is anyone prepared to have their life stopped, at least for a time, when that earthquake hits the western side of North America, Canada, and the United States? It's going to happen. I guarantee you, and I swear on a stack of Bibles, that it's going to happen. Is anybody prepared? I keep talking about emergency preparedness every day. I can only hope the people are heeding my call to be prepared, and that you are indeed working on your preparedness kits, your food, your medical, the prescription drugs you take that keep you alive, the water, the clothing that you got put away for that day. Is everybody ready when this happens? It's going to affect the entire continent, guys. It's going to be felt across the entire continent all the way to the East Coast. Possibly not a 10.0, but I will almost bet there's going to be 5.0 earthquakes hitting in the central United States, and maybe moderate earthquakes hitting on the East Coast. So everybody's going to feel it. And it's possible that it'll be so large that people around the world are going to feel it. It's going to shake the earth. Is anybody even listening to me? I hope you are. I care about you. I love each and every one of you. You may not know me from Adam. You see my video here, you hear my voice telling you what's happening, but are you listening? Are you listening to what I'm saying? I care, guys. I want you to be prepared. As prepared as you can possibly get. We don't have much time left. We don't. Richard Smith is reporting another small 3.3 earthquake on Raoul Island, North Island, New Zealand. A 3.3 earthquake hitting there. USGS hardly reports anything going there. Unreal. Unreal. Sleeping Volcano, if you're going to bed, we wish you the best. Sleeping Volcano is one of our mods here, and we love her very much. She and her husband need our prayers. They've been going through a lot medical-wise, and they need our prayers, as do most of us. Folks, the Lord taught us how to pray. The Lord taught us how to pray in the Lord's Prayer. I hope that each of us is praying for each other. For all of us. We all need to be praying for each other. Folks, we're coming down in the last days. There's not much time left. The best I can say is we're in the beginning of the tribulation, meaning it's going to get things that are happening in our lives today that we're seeing, it's going to get much worse. And the natural disasters, the earthquakes, all the storms that we're seeing, only going to get much worse. We need to be prepared. Paul told the Ephesians in Ephesians chapter 2, in verse 19. And now therefore, you are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God. We must get prepared. We must be believing, reading the scriptures, getting physically, morally, and spiritually prepared. The church that Christ built upon this earth, Paul said, was built upon the foundation of apostles and prophets. Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. Brothers and sisters, I leave that with you. Think about it. Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone of his church, wanting each and every one of us to follow him. Every week I teach a Sunday school class called Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. I take great pride in that class. Number one, because I'm spiritually educated. I'm not a scholar, but I'm very much aware of what's in the scriptures. Christ, through his apostles, taught us many lessons. And there are apostles and prophets on this earth today. I testify of that. We continue to be led by apostles and prophets. We're here on this earth because we promised Jesus Christ that we would follow him and find him if we are allowed to come here. And we would obey his commandments so that we can return to our Father in heaven. Brothers and sisters, I implore you, find Jesus Christ in your own life. Find Jesus Christ and follow him. I am a disciple. I am a follower. I love my older brother, Jesus Christ, our Savior and our King. May each of us find that same testimony and follow that and be prepared. May each of us follow that and be prepared. I bear you my testimony. I know it's true. In the very sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen. If anything else happens or the Iceland volcano starts up again, tonight we'll be able to come back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available, or if anything else happens as well. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow evening, same time, but earlier time. Or actually, earlier time, same station. Please tell your friends, your neighbors, your friends, your family, and your extended family, and even the people you work with. Tell them about this channel. Tell them that we want them here. They deserve the information that we have to give them and share with them. We love them as well. God be with you until we meet again. Have a great night, folks. I love you.